Okay, we're over here at the garage now on the far end of the property. My road is about a quarter-mile long, goes straight down the ridge, probably loses over 300 feet of elevation going down. Somewhere on the opposite side of this planet, a gentleman has a front yard full of gravel all the time and can't figure out where it's coming from. Well, feel free to send it back, sir. I could certainly use it. With all the monsoons, our roads take a beating. But in any event, here's what you guys are probably most interested in. This is Fred. Many of you have seen him way too many times already, I'm sure. But he's a 1968 GTX. Not much right about him. Nothing matches, numbers-wise. Nothing is right. The color is wrong. It was an automatic bench seat. It's now a 4-speed bucket. It was originally that really strange copper color that they liked painting cars back then. But now the previous owner did all the sheet metal work. You can't tell what color it was originally. I can't find any trace of the original color on the car anywhere. Because, in no small part, a lot of the metal is not what it was. But he did a decent job for a fella doing this in the garage, amateur. And knowing Charlie, probably got 6 or 7 buds in him on any given occasion. I've got hundreds of pictures of him cutting this thing apart and fabricating, and it's got new trunk floor, new interior floor, new quarters, new wheelhouse. He put a lot of metal in this car. And then capped it all off with a really crappy paint job. But since I can't do any better, what am I going to say, right? This car has a lot of little stories involved with a lot of the parts on it, like you guys probably can relate to. That little antique tag here in Tennessee will cost you $25. And you pay for it once, and you never have to renew the registration again. Haggerty likes those kind of tags, I know. Any event, pretty sweet. Yes, those are folding chairs and a tent and all that stuff that the wife insists on when we go somewhere with it. But other than that, whole lot of heavy metal. The tail panel you see on this car was restored for me by a fella out of Texas by the name of Bob. Now, there's a story on FBBO somewhere where I told Bob's story. Bob and I were friends. He had a little business down in Texas where he restored one little car here, fooled around with that little car there. Bob, just a great guy. He's just really quiet, but as honest as the day is long, and very religious. Somehow or another, he and I tripped over one another online and became good friends and got to where we would talk on the phone at night and things like that. And Bob volunteered to do that tail panel for me. I said, Bob, these things cost a fortune when they reproduce them. All I've got is a couple of crappy pitted ones. He said, send them both to me, and I'll make you one nice one. And I said, well, I can't afford to pay you for that. And he said, no, my payment will be the other one. I'll just keep the other one, chuck it up on the wall as a memento or whatever. He said, send it to me. I've got some original origin paint. I can do it justice. Little did I know Bob would spend the next 2 weeks painstakingly going over that tail panel, filling in all the pock marks in it, because you know it's pot metal. He filled those in one by hand. He didn't use body putty. He metaled this thing back up, which just must have been incredibly boring to do. But now Bob is a perfectionist. When he got done and he sent this thing back to me, I about died. I went, no, now I got to send you some money. And he said, you send me money, you will insult me. I found out about 2 weeks later, Bob had terminal cancer. He never told me. I knew he wasn't feeling too terribly well, but I was talking to his son one evening. And he said, well, you know, don't you? And I said, know what? And he told me, and I went, oh my good Lord, I'm coming down there. I got to do something. He said, no. This is what he wanted to do with the time he had left. I said, fool with my panel? And he said, well, now, Ed, yours wasn't the only thing he was playing with. But yeah, that's what he wanted to do. Don't mess this up now. Let him play it out the way he wants to play it out. I went, well, all right. And he says, now you can't let him know that you know. You have to act like everything's normal with you guys. So I had to pretend for the next, and it was a pretty good while. It was probably 4 or 5 months. I had to pretend that I didn't know every time I talked to him. Yeah, there's a story with this panel. I don't care if it's concourse or correct or if the edges needed re-chromed. I don't really care. I just don't. It's beautiful to me. In any event, there is your requisite decals in the back window. Look, Joey, some of us actually use them. Now if I could get you to make a stupid t-shirt. Any event, on we go. This is the side that I infamously banged into the garage door with one day because for some reason I can't judge a garage door opening. And this thing went off. I had to entrust it to a body shop. The body shop not only fixed the dent, which was right over this wheel well, but they proceeded to redo the seams on the roof. They did a little bit of repair on the rockers that Charlie, the previous owner, had just totally sloughed over. They did a blend and a match. They're one of these body shops that uses water-based paint, and they found out this paint doesn't work in water-based. And I had given them the exact codes because Charlie had them. And they wound up going down the street to a competitor and buying some real paint and having to shoot this thing the good old-fashioned way, base coat, clear coat. And they said, well, there's no guarantee it'll match. I said, that car's not been in the sunshine long enough to fade. It'll match. And it did. It matched perfectly. She's not perfect by any stretch, but it's all one color. And that's more than I can say about most Mopars I've ever owned. Once again, not going to win any shows, but it's all here. The interior, my wife and I put this interior together. It's got the wrong radio plate on it, I know. You guys know the difference in the 68 and the 69 and what a pain in the ass that's all about. But, she and I kind of taught ourselves how to do interiors on this interior. And other than the headliner that needs to be redone back in the sail panels back there, not too bad. It kind of looks like it belongs there, sort of. There's Charlie's covered up boot for his 4-speed conversion. He did a hump. When he replaced these floors, he used a correct hump. But he hacked the floor so bad, and then he riveted everything together. He didn't even weld it or clean it up or anything. But it's a lot of fun to get down there and play with the linkage. Your hands will be sliced to ribbons. Of this, I know. Any event, still needs a lot of pieces, needs a lot of parts. This is the door, by the way, that decided to fall on me when I was replacing the hinges on it here recently. And I was doing that by myself with a floor jack and what have you, and it decided to come off the jack when I was wrestling with it. And with some geriatric fast moves, I wound up protecting the door and beating the snot out of myself in the process, but I did not hurt the door. Miracle. Oh, the rims, by the way, are whatever the heck Charlie got. These are some of the cheap reproduction Magnum 500s. You've got to stay on them with mothers pretty religiously. They tarnish at the drop of a hat. And I'd almost swear that they're rotting from the inside. But, you know, those tires are the original TAs that Charlie put on it 10 years ago or better. Yeah, I know, I need to replace them. I got no miles on them, though. I mean, look at the treads on them. It drives nice. It actually is a really nice driving car. Other Mopar guys here locally, when they've gotten a chance to be in it or drive it or whatever, they go, man, that thing goes down the road really nice. And I said, yeah, and the miracle is it's been cut to shreds and put back together. So Charlie did all right. The grill might be one of the few original parts on the car. It is beat to snot. It looks like a used car grill. It needed a grill when I got it. This grill came out of a junkyard about 20 miles from here. That is closed to the public. He got in trouble with the tax man, and he's not allowed to sell parts to the public. Let's just say the grill got from there to here without a legal transaction. I'll just leave it at that. Very grateful to the gentleman. That little old tag on there has got to be, good Lord, 25 years old. Roland gave that to me at a Mopar meet. It might even have been a Nationals way back when. Rest in peace, Roland. The rest of this you guys have seen 14 billion pictures of. This is a 72 engine that I got out of a place out in Nevada for pretty dirt cheap. It's got a little bit of a purple shaft in it. Other than that, those are the chrome 67 original valve covers that I fetched for it. The air cleaner I fetched, I might have fetched that from somebody at FBBO. I don't remember now. It's got stinking Hedman headers on it that refuse to die. And a 3-inch exhaust all the way back that Charlie thought sounded really cool. And I guess if you're 100 feet from it, it does. Nothing special here. It's got a really ragtag Edelbrock on it. Mopar electronic ignition. The rest of what I've done to this poor thing, you can see in the various threads online. There's that gigantic radiator from Griffin that I've managed to beat half to snot, because that wasn't really supposed to be in this car. But they gave me a hell of a deal, so I made it be in this car. That happened a lot with parts in this thing. I suppose I should see if this thing starts. Let's see. The switches have all been redone because they were all junk. The dimmer switch for the dash and things like that come from Devinism. I believe he's a member on FBBO now. He's been on eBay forever. That guy is class, and he does incredibly good work. Not to mention, he's a pretty good guy. His name is Devinism. A lot of these switches, I just tore them apart and fixed them. That old radio there actually works. Doesn't work well, but it works. And of course, me being old, I have to have my super tack too. It's just, there's a lot better tachometers out there, but I went and found a brand new one, never been installed. I don't know, let's see if it cranks. Well, I'll be. Yeah, she's pretty cold. I had this instrument cluster out entirely at one point because I was hell-bent on getting all the little lights and everything to work. And I got in quite a bit of trouble with my wife because the dining room table became the surgical table. And it was just supposed to be a little evening project. Wound up being a few days because I had everything apart and I needed some stuff. You gotta wait for parts, right? Well, she wasn't real thrilled that I had taken her table over like that. And I said, dear, just wait till I start using the oven. Any event, she's alive and well. The 4-speed is an 18 spline that I fetched from a fella down here from a place called White Pine, Tennessee, that got in all kinds of trouble with an ex-wife and needed some cash in a hurry. And I talked to friends who talked to friends who talked to friends and said, that guy straight up, if he's telling you that thing's been built, it's been built. So, I took a leap of faith and I drove down there one day, gun tucked into the small of my back, because that's a part of the country you don't go into alone unless you've got something. And come to find out, the guy looked like a train wreck, looked like a hippie left over from the 60s, but he was as good a guy as you'll ever run across. Straight up dude, very honest. You got the right vibe off of him. And the transmission's fantastic. It drives wonderfully. The clutch, well, we won't talk about the clutch. You guys know I hate every clutch I put in this car. Unfortunately, the fellow that put this clutch in for me, because, hey, no lift, right? No lift in this garage. And I'm getting a little old for that nonsense. So I had a guy do the clutch for me that has some really cool Mopars, by the way, but he's psychotic. I'm not going back to ever see him again. Literally, he's got issues. But he didn't bother to resurface the flywheel when he put my new clutch in. Which is, that's kind of like clutch 101, isn't it? Anyway, chatters. It does. You learn how to drive around it. I remember one of the members on FBBO said, just treat it like a tractor. Drive it up softly against a tree and dump that clutch and just work it. Burn that sucker. I went, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm just happy it works. So this thing came in here on a trailer in 2011, missing an awful lot. She's been through a couple of engines. She's been through a lot of good people. And the Lord knows, you folks at FBBO have been instrumental, if not the biggest reason, that she's a running, driving car. And that I made it this far. And I made it this far with her. And I keep calling her her. My wife insists that this is a he, and his name is Fred, so I need to stop calling it her. But yeah, she does all right. Is this car worth anything to anybody else? Not really. It's worth the world to me. Because every part of it that I go to and look at, oh yeah, for you guys that love seeing the fender tag, there's the fender tag. So you can see everything on the car is wrong. But she is a real GTX. That much is true. But every little piece of this car, like when the body shop had it and couldn't get the trim around the back window correct, so what did they do? What was their solution? Hey, look at there. Oh, well, it's like worst comes to worst. I'll throw some new trim on it. The problem being the clips are not around the window because Charlie, when he redid the car, didn't put the clips in before he put the back window back in. And you can't put them in afterwards. Well, okay, you can, but you don't do it properly. So, my friend Bob, by the way, not only redid that tail panel, he insisted on having the tail lights with him So he redid the taillights to match. Then he polished the lenses to like new. Then he just kept going. And I was like, Bob. He said, no, it's going to be my work on that car. It's going to be to my specifications. I said, yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. By the way, since this thing was a 4-speed conversion, quote unquote, it didn't have a harness on it at all for reverse lights. And when I went to get this thing titled, Tennessee doesn't require a whole lot, but state trooper wanted to come by and have a look at it, just kind of give it a first safety whatever. And he was fussing about the reverse lights not working. And I said, okay, we'll check into it. Well, there's your reverse lights. Now for the funny part. The car doesn't have a reverse light harness on it at all. That would have been the right thing to do. But, and you'll notice I just put it in reverse, keys off, and they work. They'll work any time you put it in reverse. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in a parking lot with no key. Reason being, I wired them. And of course, since I wired them, they're wired to hot. So you can have reverse lights anytime you like. Okay, this video is long enough. And I've prattled on enough. Some of you guys will actually, maybe even, recognize parts that you have sold me or sent me or whatever. If you did, they're on here. Fred needs an awful lot more. No doubt about it. And even if you do spend all the money, he's still just going to be Fred. He will never be numbers matching, and nothing will ever look right. Nothing will ever be the way it was. But he's right for Fred, and he's right for me. And for some god-awful reason, my wife likes him too. She's afraid to drive him, but she loves him. Any event, oh, here's all these stinking wheels I've been trying to get rid of. I got a guy coming this evening. I don't know if he's going to take them or not. I'm going to practically chuck them in the back of his truck if he shows up. I've had enough of that. Oh, and there's the Charger that I fell asleep in. Alive and well. Great car, by the way. That thing is deceptively quick for what it is. Let me see if I can switch this thing around again. I bet it won't let me. Okay, hang on a sec.